Hey everybody, welcome back to Digital Artcast. You're joining me again in a new year and a new decade, 2020. Since it's just after the holidays, I hope you guys had an awesome Christmas and New Year with your friends or family, whatever you were doing. And of course, if you're back to work, I hope you're enjoying whatever you're working on at the moment, what project you're working on. Here in Digital Artcast, we've had a couple of really inspirational artists come on, and some people that I've definitely had on a list that I've wanted to talk to for a long, long time. And luckily, the artist that we're speaking to today, I bumped into in LA at Lightbox Expo, and he agreed to come on after we had some kind of scheduling conflicts and freeing up some time. So today we are speaking to one of my big inspirations in art, Mr. Scott Campbell. What's happening, Scott?
Hello. Nothing much. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good to see you.
You guys who are listening on your end won't realize that we've been through a hella setup trying to get this organized because the software we use was for some reason just playing up. So Scott's been in and out of the conversation 5 or 6 times trying to get it to work. So thank you for being patient, Scott. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm excited. Now I can have the most wonderful intro remarks. I'm ready to go.
Of course. And then, again, we were talking about the distinction between you being Scott Campbell and other artists. There are other artists who are also Scott Campbell. And also about how you dreamed about having a show between all 4 of you, exhibiting your work at one time.
Yeah, there would be a tattoo guy, there would be a gig poster guy, there would be the sexy comic
Marvel
guy.
comic guy.
Yeah, and then there'd be my little cute things.
Yeah, but that was one of your original inspirations, was like you wanted to go and draw like X-Men when you studied at school. That was kind of like your first kind of major inspiration.
It's true. Yeah. That was like, that's what I went when I was in college. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw X-Men, and yes. I came close to doing it, but completely changed directions. And it's good because a different Scott Campbell slipped into that slot. So it's fine.
Yes, of course. You have your own distinction.
Yeah.
You discovered Stinky Cheeseman, and then everything changed in your life.
That's true. Stinky Cheeseman changed things for me.
It was a pivotal moment in your career.
It was.
I think it's one of the main thing I think that I love about your work is the fact that, you look at traditional concept art or stuff that is in studios at the moment, especially maybe on the AAA range, but then your art has this very, very distinctive feel that is, it's nothing that you'll see in kind of mainstream concept art. It's something that has its own voice. And I think you've kind of talked about this where, Tim Schafer typically would go and pick artists he feels that are very detached from the industry and have their own unique voice, especially when I think a lot of people, have followed him since the whole Double Fine Adventure, which became Broken Age. But, front and center for that, he wanted Nathan, Stapley's art. He wanted his art to be the storytelling mechanic for that game, which I think is something that's rare in the industry, especially at, the top level of games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And is that something you felt like has defined you over the years? Do you feel like that's been a great kind of path for you that's made you find these opportunities because of your style?
Yeah, but I guess it's also just who I surround myself with. I mean, part of the reason why my style kind of developed into that way is because of the people I met at the university and afterwards and stuff, and being exposed to other types of comics and other ways of drawing and painting, and it kind of opened up my eyes to other things, which is what, for me, kind of what college is all about, being exposed to other things besides learning the technique and things like that. Like, but also, I mean, it like, and also like the opportunity to work with Tim, like he was like somebody that like the visual style of his games always like he determined by like kind of what the story was. I mean, like the Day of the Dead for Grim Fandango, like kind of seeing 3D as like using it for what you can. I mean, using it for strong suits and like making little puppets and toys. That's why that one was so effective. So like doing Psychonauts in that style was something that like it just kind of worked. It was a happy combination, and we both had the same sort of humor, so it was fun to like kind of try to be funny together and come up with humorous visual gags and.
I think it's also like probably comedy inspires a lot of your art, right? Like you talked about how, especially when you were in New York, because I think you're back in San Fran now, right? You're back in the LA side of the
I'm
world.
in LA.
You
Yeah,
moved
I've moved
back.
to LA. I've never lived in
Yeah,
LA, but I just moved here a couple years ago. So,
right. Cool.
but
But yeah, you were saying even when you were in New York, like you were quite into the comedy scene, and obviously Tim is like a huge comedy writer. So do you feel like that's something that has inspired your art over the years, like comedy in itself?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like that was a big turning point for my art. Was being in that like art collective in San Francisco and having art shows and things. Like kind of when I started kind of drifting away from just figurative and kind of realistic painting and things like into funny style, I realized that like that was kind of what I wanted to do with my art more so. It's just do things that made people happy and like people can like laugh at and come up with their own stories with. Like that was the most wonderful experience for me to see from people for when people kind of enjoy my stuff on that level. That was I felt like that was my strength a
Yeah,
little bit more, and that was also what I enjoyed doing. So that's why my
yeah.
and then like a trip to Japan in 2000 also kind of made my things extra cute. So it was like the combination of those
Oh
two
wow,
things
yeah,
kind of developed out of those, I suppose. But I've always
nice.
humor has always been a big
Yeah,
part of my life.
yeah, Japan's like it's definitely on the bucket list for me. I've still to try and get over that side of the world, but I'm definitely like I have to.
Ooh,
It's just one of these things.
yeah, I
It's
like it.
definitely has to happen at one point. But yeah, also because I remember watching Tim talk about kind of how he was introduced to you, and it was more through I think a show you done at the time where you had a bunch of illustrations that were like awkward
Oh,
situations, like or awkward
yeah.
conversations between
Yep.
people, and I thought that was just like hilarious. It was just a great like theme to have a show behind, but also just something that made you probably really creative in the time, thinking, well, what would be a really awkward situation? What would inspire me to draw these little portraits of people having these awkward
Yeah.
moments? And then you've kind of done the same thing where like you even talk about working with Gallery 1988, where like the pop culture stuff you do, like like the whole like Spider-Man's using Venom as a slide, like the whole set of things you've got there illustration wise, they're also based on themes and comedy themes,
Yeah.
um and is that definitely something now you enjoy doing more, is like showing in galleries and doing freelance stuff as opposed to, because you spent so long in the games industry in California working on these games, is this something that you think is more like what you are looking to do more towards, is be more expressive in these shows than come back
I
to
go
the
back and
games?
forth. I mean, I'm not showing in galleries as much as I used to. I felt like that was kind of it was when I was younger and had a lot more energy. Like I was tackling all these things at once, doing designing for video games, doing comics, and doing the art shows, and those kind of helped fuel. They were kind of breaks from each other, and they also kind of fueled each other, like
Yeah.
the energy and everything. But I remember even like the beginning days of those having those art shows in San Francisco, like. That did kind of help me kind of get into the whole like designing for games and coming up with concepts in general for any of my projects. But
Yeah.
because that specific one that Tim was at was like the theme of that show we was tongue tied, like that was the name of the show. So everyone's artwork had to deal with that theme.
Okay.
So it was like and in that
Right.
piece was just like I think it was like 100 little like inch by inch squares drawn on various pieces of paper of
Mm-hmm.
moments when characters were tongue tied, like they didn't know what to say. Um, and
Yeah.
like one of those, what makes that kind of fun for me or coming up with the Spider-Man concepts is like coming up with a lot of concepts, like thinking of a theme and then
Mm-hmm.
like developing like a whole bunch of just like non like real stream of consciousness coming up with ideas. So the ideas themselves aren't as precious. So you're kind of like you're not putting so much like um, weight onto these ideas being good, which means you don't have to worry about like
Mm.
them. Never have to worry about them being good. And if you generate a lot of these ideas,
Yeah.
sometimes you get to like idea number 81 or something, and then that's a good one or something. It's like it takes the pressure off, which is kind of
Yeah.
it's good for designing for video games. That's good, coming up with concepts. It's good for doing stuff for picture books and stuff for art shows and stuff. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
anything to take the pressure off because getting started is very difficult sometimes. So
Yeah. The blank piece of paper is always like the biggest
yeah,
thing for me, and I think for a lot of students I've met, where the initial just getting started is always the hardest part, because once you're in the flow you tend to churn out like you said 100 drawings, but the first like three are like the
right,
hardest to get by, because then it's the same I think when you write for comedy, right? I have friends who do some stand-up stuff, and they were saying that when they write, like they would just do this kind of
yeah,
word vomit thing. I think
yes,
Tim's also done a version of it when I've watched him, is that you just write straight for like 2 minutes and just anything that comes into your head, you just put it on paper, and then you will find something within that that's like, oh, that could probably work, or that would probably generate something.
You're just
So
starting up your brain like a little motor. You're just trying to make it go any direction, and then you think, okay, now that I'm writing it, I can kind of guide it into different garages and tunnels.
Yeah. And then that's been something that you probably has helped you through just working with other artists like Nathan and Lee and Peter. Like they've all kind of maybe done similar things that you've warmed up with, or ideas that I've generated. And like even I remember one of my favorite episodes of the whole Double Fine adventure was walking around in our drawings. It was like when you guys had the art jam, if the first kind of one you done where you're all just sitting around the table and painting and stuff and letting ideas just like flow at your head. And you can just see those moments where Tim's like just watching you guys just work, and he's like, oh my god, this is so incredible. Like it was these little life rafts that you guys made that he could cling onto that would help him kind of visualize what he was thinking about.
Pre-production is always all of our favorite times forever, because it's like that's when you could dream big and there's nothing holding you back. And like the further you get into production is when you have to start cutting things and start putting things together. And like that's the challenge, and that could be fun too. But you're like, oh man, you're dreaming all those little dreams, and you have a huge pile of these things that could lead to all kinds of places. That's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. And I take it that's probably one of being the best things about working with Tim is that he is very appreciative of artists. Like he has this real appreciation for people's artwork and putting that front and center and letting you guys be like as free and creative as, because he's an artist himself, obviously he's a writer. So like, but then, and a programmer, but then, he has these things where he's always looked at people's art and thought, this is really important because they've spent, they put so much of themselves, or you do put so much of yourself into your art, that he didn't want that to be like it was just another drawing. He's like, no, this is Scott's drawing. This is really important because Scott drew this. So, like even the time when like I think Nathan had like ripped one of the drawings up and put it in the trash, and he was like picking it out of the trash because he was like, no, this is amazing.
I think like early on when we started working together, he would tell me, he's like, okay, you're not allowed to throw any drawings out. Like we're going to keep every doodle, because like Peter would throw away stuff and he would always get mad at him. He's like, we just need to have them all. I'm like, oh god. So he kind of got me into this pack rat vibe where now I hang on to all my drawings, and I really probably need to purge some of them. But like he got me into that. And like Nathan is like the opposite of that. Like he's so like he like is so self-deprecating on his own stuff that he'll repaint stuff over and over again over the old paintings. And like, dude, like you look at one of his paintings and you know there's a series of 8 or 9 wonderful paintings under that painting,
behind it. Such a shame. It's going to be it's hard for him because like you're always your own worst critic, right? You can't be like, oh my, this is amazing. You're always like, oh, it could be better, it could be. But yeah, I get that feeling from Nathan that he's very like he has that perfectionist thing almost too much, where he's just but the Nathan stuff's incredible. Like the stuff he done for Double Fine was one thing, but then there's even a little snippet in that episode where he shows like Nathan's paintings or drawings he's done in shows, like that one where it was like a bunch of dads, like all these dads in like a painting. Like some of that stuff is like so creative and so incredibly even just well rendered.
He has incredible raw talent. He was our first texture artist that we hired at Double Fine for Psychonauts. He was the first, like, because he was at Lucas with us, and he was the first person because he was just like so naturally gifted with color and shapes and all that stuff. So
so cool. Like even the little story I think he made initially about the bear and the lumberjack, like they had to that was like so cool as well. That was just that could have been a game in itself. Like it was so well done. But like these little ideas that just sprout his head, it's like they're incredible. But then of course that stuff is great for you also, because then you feed off that like any other artist. You take like parts of his work into yours, and because most artists I think are collective consciousness of other people. So you will, like for me especially, like I'll look at other people's work and say, I love that little part of that person's work, so I'll take that and add that, or that color palette, or that anatomy, or that dynamic posing. But then it's a great thing, I think, to have these people around you. I feel jealous of it being in Scotland. Like again, we were talking about this earlier, that Scotland's a great little country, but there's not a huge art community through here, especially when it comes to entertainment design, so stuff from maybe games or film or whatever. I think there's more a comic book vibe, because there are some really good comic artists here that have worked with like 2000 AD or Marvel or DC, but then the other stuff is few and far between. So
well, I mean, that's why the internet is great for that. I mean, I'm constantly finding things on. I mean, I'm on Instagram all the time, so I'm constantly finding new artists that I'm get obsessed with. And I certainly don't live near any of them. I have like my little community of kids book illustrators that I meet up with every once in a while, and as much as possible here in LA.
Mm.
But like a lot of my big buddies and inspirations are in different towns. So
And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. We had a technical difficulty, so we had to resume from where we left off. But yeah, we were talking about the whole art community and people being near you. You were saying, that people are, depending on which city you're in, are relatively near you, and you have a kind of close group of friends that are more children's book illustrators. But it's weird for me, I think, because there's only so much stuff you can do online where I still miss that physical element. Like I'm a
oh yeah,
very like I feed off people's energy in a sense where I need to be around creative people. So I find it hard or harder trying to interact with people online and still get that same
yeah,
energy. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, definitely. I feel like there's so many. I mean, aren't there? But there are artists in your town that you could like meet up with. Like, do you have like a little group? Like, could you start? What is that? What is that group called? The online thing where you can have like set up groups to meet up. Meet up.
oh, the meetup. Yeah, there's a meetup app. We have some of the stuff over here, but it's more, which I mean, it would be fine as well, but it tends to be more hobbyists. So it's people who
Mm,
are pursuing the art for something, it's like a thing they do outside of their normal job that isn't their
right.
job.
Yeah.
And I think it's different when you meet people who are doing it as a career because the conversation shifts slightly on techniques and things you're doing because it's more relevant to
Right.
the
Right.
thing you're doing with your career. So I mean, like I know I have artist friends who are non-industry artists, which is fine because it's great to be able. Like I have a SketchUp group I meet up with. Funnily enough, I meet up with tomorrow. Every Saturday we try to get together and go to the National Museum in Scotland, which is
Oh,
free to go into. So we go in and we sketch,
oh, cool.
like trains and planes and dinosaurs and that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
awesome.
So that's been really good to just, and then we have lunch and we chat and make a kind of whole day of it, which is great. But yeah, it's harder to replicate that stuff online. Although it does
Sure.
exist. I think what I'm trying to do now is to get into more meetups online using like Google Hangouts and stuff or Discord. And meeting with other people who are like trying to get in industry or in industry, and they do like little hangouts at night and talk amongst. Well, they're working on stuff on their computer. They just sit with their microphone on
Right.
and chat to people. So I'm trying to do more of that because
Yeah.
yeah, I just need a good
I,
conversation now and
I do
again.
like that. But like that's something I do like about watching people paint and stuff is feeling like you're sharing a studio with those guys.
Yeah,
And like
yeah, I would love to do that.
yeah,
Just have a collective where it's like you just have this almost artist residency. You can all kind of live in like the one place and
yeah.
contribute. So,
I
but
was
that gets harder as you get older because you have families and stuff. So
true, true. But also, but I mean to physically hang out, but having online hangouts is probably better when you have a family because you could find moments to like just steal away and be at your house and do it. I
yeah,
would think. I don't know. I don't.
yeah,
I can't really, but
depends. So you had this amazing career where you worked on multiple games for. Well, you obviously started with Lucas Learning. That was one of your first gigs or jobs that you had, and then obviously moving over to Double Fine, and then that was a huge part of your career also. Um, you've also done stuff I think that is lesser known, where you've done, like you said, these art shows or collaborations with people. I mean, I know there was one point you were doing like a poster for Breaking Bad for one of the finales. Um,
oh right.
where's your kind of career went in the last maybe 5 years? Maybe since you've left Double Fine, or you've done and moved on into more freelance stuff. What's been your main focus the last kind of half
Well, the
decade?
main focus was something actually. The other thing that I went to art school for, in addition to doing comics, was picture books for children.
Hmm.
And that's actually it's taken me this long to actually start getting into that. So the past 8 years or so,
Hmm.
I've been illustrating and writing picture books for kids. So that's kind of my
Cool.
main income, aside from
Hmm.
working with Double Fine here and there and doing art shows and
Hmm.
selling prints in my shop and things like that. Like that's kind of my major focus,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like where I'm kind of
Hmm.
going towards a little bit more, a little bit less on the
Right.
galleries and things. So
Right.
that's right.
Yeah. And then is that process, or is that industry more I don't know, is it more suited to your style or your more artistic approach? Do you feel like you're more at home with those
Well,
tasks than like working on AAA games or doing art shows for galleries?
I think the only difference, I mean, like I'm being able to kind of like work with having it be a smaller team, it's just me and the art director and the editor, like being in
Right.
complete control of kind of like what you're putting out and everything. Like
Yeah.
there's something that like it is much more difficult.
to work with a much larger team of like whatever
Mm-hmm.
70 people or 80 people to try to like come together to create this experience, whether it's like on a movie or like cartoon or video
Mm-hmm.
game and stuff, which is like incredibly satisfying because like everyone's talented in their own way, and it's fun to bounce ideas off and stuff like that. So it's a little bit lonelier, but it
Yeah.
also is like you're more in control of what the output is and everything. So I like, I
Right.
mean, and actually my background in games kind of helped me a little bit once I got into the picture books because again I'm like not as married to ideas as much. I'm not like bummed out when the editor is like change this or this isn't working or whatever. I'm so
Right.
eager to like
Yeah.
make it good. I'm so eager to have other people come at it with different ways of thinking about the audience and helping me like make something be more accessible
Yeah.
and enjoyable for everyone because I would love everyone to enjoy my stuff. I wouldn't just
Of
like a
course.
little cult group of people to like who an obscure group of people that are fans of this one thing or something like that. Like it'd be nice
Mm.
to be able to have everyone enjoy it, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love doing
Yeah.
picture books, and it's fun because there's so much you could do with different worlds and and how kids think about things and how kids play, and like it's a huge inspiration to me, like uh, to create worlds that I like to exist in and they like to exist in together because they're.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know. Kids' ideas are very inspiring to me in general. Mm.
Yeah, I think definitely there's that whole like kids, especially when it comes to generating ideas, have this infinite energy for just making
Yeah.
up things. So yeah, if you can feed off any of that, it will make your art even more
Hmm.
better. There's been so many people I think I've seen recently who have done the whole Instagram thing where like they turn their kids' pictures into actual
Hmm. Yeah.
illustrations, and it's been like a trend online because I think even that generation of ideas is something they're like, wow, I'd never think of that,
Yeah.
and making that into something that's more production ready. But then, yeah, I think kids are great for that. They just even the simplest stuff like a kid challenging his dad to make like spaceships out of shampoo bottles, like it's stuff you would just
It's
never
so
think
funny.
about. But then kids are so creative that way. It just
It's kind of
yeah.
in the same way
So
that you're
then,
kind of like
yeah,
trying to, learn to develop your own style or whatever. You're kind of looking at masters and other artists that you
yeah,
like and trying to emulate the things that you like about them and learning from drawing what they
yeah,
draw. And like kind of, it's almost like reverse engineering it when you look at like children's illustrations and stuff, when you see like how they think and you're actually, for those people redrawing and
mm,
repainting a kid's drawing, like I would think that you're looking at like, wow, these ideas and shapes are something I would never think of, but you're kind of seeing like how their stream of consciousness works, which I think is a wonderful thing about like watching kids work.
yeah. There's a really good book. I think even just to talk to adults in general, it's a great book to read. But it's called How to Speak or How to Talk So Kids Will
Mhm.
Listen, and it's a whole book about just trying to understand the psyche of children and how they think.
Cool.
And it's interesting because it teaches you how to just interact with kids in a way that treats them like little people. Like they're not kids; they're just
Totally.
undeveloped, human
Yes.
beings. So when they have ideas, generally back when I was a kid or when people were kids, that if you said something silly or something funny, your mum and dad would be like, that's just like silly talk because you're a kid. But then if the adults actually take the time to be like, oh, but what are you actually
Hmm.
talking about? And where did that idea come from? Like you can delve into like their way of thinking more clearly because you're not treating it as like a throwaway idea because they're a kid.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, well maybe they actually
Yeah.
have something.
It's
And
they're like kind of like
so
untainted little
yeah,
geniuses. Like an actual grown up genius is maybe
yeah,
sometimes hard to understand and talk to, and you're kind of trying to like feed off of like their incredible
of
ideas, and
course.
then like but a child is like also just going bonkers and just like listening and corralling those
Yeah.
ideas.
I think because kids are so brutally honest, they're just so straightforward and shooting with their ideas. They don't really hold anything back, thinking that, oh, maybe that's maybe a bit socially awkward or that might not fit any of the narrative. They're just like, oh, this is really cool. I think this would be
Mhm.
an awesome idea. You're like, oh, that probably is an
Yeah.
awesome idea. So, yeah, I can definitely see the appeal of working with kids more than doing the whole, the
Hmm.
AAA slog or designing
It's
for
fun
whatever.
thinking of
But
them as peers for sure, because like the like cartoons, I think that some of the most successful cartoons are the ones that don't speak down to the kids. Something I could like Adventure Time is like an incredibly popular show because you have like the wild, just like straight like ideas that a kid world would have, and then like enough things for like adults to. It's like that's just my fantasy to create something that is like everybody from children all the way up to like adults and can enjoy the time together. So
well, Pendleton had a kind of like when lightning strikes kind of idea there where it did speak to all ages. Like there was no real barrier of entry for that cartoon. Like everybody, like I know guys still in their
of
late
course,
20s who
yeah,
still watch
eventually.
that, because it's just it's super inspiring. Even just the worlds he created, and like even his style of drawing, like the way he drew things, it was not maybe like like perfect anatomy and super realistic proportions. It was more just about getting the idea across and the story, rather than focusing on like
That
the
was
art.
kind of
But like it's like yeah, like his stuff was incredible. And then he had that whole thing where he like would come by the studio and contribute to Double Fine
yeah,
as well, because Tim's obviously a fan of him as well. So yeah, like such a, and those worlds are great to create, because like you said, it's sometimes things you would think about, "Oh, I never thought about this, like bubblegum princess world, or like
okay.
this whole thing, like, but these are just generation ideas that are
Well, that
universal
was
and they're
like the
great.
thing too
So
with Stinky Cheese Man for me. Like that's why that was such a turning point book. Like that picture book. Like I forget when it came out, but like because that was one of the first times with picture books that I was like, oh my god, this is like fully speaking to everyone. And it's not like just speaking to adults. Like okay, I'm going to say these funny real fart jokes for kids, and then I'm going to do these pop culture jokes for which for the adults. Like it's like two separate kind of paths. Which not to talk down about Shrek or anything, but that's kind of like the vibe of Shrek a little bit more like. Whereas like you have two different paths of humor that people are enjoying rather than something that everyone is enjoying together, like speaking to kids as peers and being able to like joke around like that. That's just like revelation to me when I read that book. So
yeah, because some of the weirder stuff I think is when you watch things as a kid, but then as you revisit them as an adult, you're like, oh, okay, there's stuff in there that I didn't get the first time round because I didn't understand what they're talking about. But when you separate that humor into two levels, then it's hard for everybody. And I mean, I know things can be specifically aimed at one certain group, and it doesn't have to be for everybody. But I think, like you said, that's where some of the more successful either comic books or cartoons have been timeless. Like, I mean, one of my favorite shows is Avatar: The Last Airbender,
I've seen it.
and that show to me speaks to
Mm-mm.
every. Have you
I've
never
heard
seen it?
I've heard a lot of people about
Oh
it.
my god! Oh wow! Well, some of the guys who were showrunners on
Mhm.
Nickelodeon for many many years, they run. I think the last thing they worked on before Avatar was
Mm.
Invader Zim, which is also is an incredible cartoon. But yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender is all about a kid who embodies this avatar. It's like a life cycle. Every however many years he lives for, every time he dies, the cycle is reborn in another generation, in another element, either water, fire, earth, or I forget the last one, the element, but I'm talking about. But yeah, but basically the whole show, because obviously he's raised by monks. It's like there's a lot of life lessons in like treating people
Mhm.
fairly and friendship and war and conflict, but there's like a mix of children's
Mhm.
themes and adult themes in the whole series. And there's just a load of good storytelling, and I think that's why it was so successful, and it is timeless because it covered so many
Hmm.
different topics. From like, because he's 13 during the whole experience, but he has to stop an entire war fleet from like
Mhm.
ruining the earth, basically, because the Fire Nation are like the bad people, and he's from the Air Tribe, the Air Nomads. So like he's trying to bring peace, but then he's a 13-year-old kid, so there's a lot of situations where he's just being a
Mhm.
teenager and a young kid, but then there's series events where like he almost has to kill people or like stop whole fleets by destroying them and using his powers, but then he feels bad about it. So there's a whole
Hmm.
system in there that's like
Yeah.
just crazy to
I'll check it
watch.
out sometime.
Yeah, a lot of the yeah, man, definitely. A lot of the guys who worked on that are now working on a series called
Mhm.
Dragon Prince for Netflix, and that's also a really, really good
Okay.
show to watch. So, but yeah, the stuff that's timeless is definitely one that is more successful and
Right.
speaks to more people. Because then when you probably read Stinky Cheese Man, you were an adult. You weren't
Ah,
reading
yeah.
it as a kid, right? So yeah, yeah. And then those things that you're doing now with the children's books, is that something that you find is also helping? Like if you're working on game art sporadically, if you're doing contract work, is that
Mhm.
feeding back into that discipline? Is
Yeah.
that something that's
Yeah,
helping also
definitely.
that grow as well?
Definitely. Yeah, it's something that like breaking things down, for simplifying the stories and stuff, like and trying to figure out what in the copy and the words, like what part of the story that you could tell uh, with words to complement or with
Mhm.
pictures to complement the words. I feel like that's kind of one of the more satisfying things about illustration, book illustrations, like how to have those two experiences.
Right.
So it's something that like thinking about that with games is also good too. Like trying to think about that with like how you design the characters and how you kind of tell stories with what the character shapes are, and that's all stuff that I get very excited about.
Right.
So, but then I also have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is that no? No, I was going to say. On you go,
Oh,
Scott.
I guess
Yeah.
like the other thing that I do work on, like I do still do. I mean, paintings for shows and things, but I still have this series that I do called the Great
Mhm.
Showdowns, which is like just based on like
Oh
on
yeah,
films, like just moments of tension between characters. But that's also a fun thing because it's like a ways of taking recognizable characters and just really breaking them down and simplifying them into very simple shapes, and you can kind of maybe feel the
yeah,
personality that each of those people have. Like boiling them down to that simplicity is like a very fun activity for me, and using those shapes and that the jankiness of those guys, but still like sturdy little characters like that also helps me with designing characters and things for games and books. They all help.
yeah. I think it's just taking familiar situations and putting them in unfamiliar settings. I think
Uh-huh.
that sometimes can be a great way to inspire a
Yeah.
new look on something. I think Simon Pegg, who was obviously a great comedian over here, who made a lot of
Mhm.
great films like
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, but they were a lot of films that were taking that genre of like, The Walking Dead or, like Bad Boys, but putting it in like an English setting where, like
Yeah.
nothing
Right.
ever happens.
Good
So
point.
that juxtaposition is something that always feeds off people's imagination, or even like the guys who done October last year, who I think he did a couple of years ago actually, where he took like the first letter of every film out of the word and made an illustration based on that. So like Obocop instead of Robocop, so it's like a
Mm,
cop with a cop
that
with an
one
oboe
works
and
well.
stuff like that. So these small ideas, yeah, they're great things to think about, and they definitely generate ideas
Huh.
where you wouldn't really think of, like your awkward conversations or like your pop culture stuff, putting things in different situations and seeing how that plays out, like like you said, using Venom as a slide
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So um yeah, so you're doing more freelance stuff now, and you're working out just your home and wherever you've moved to in California, more in LA, like you said, you're in the city now. You're probably doing stuff, I mean, you can't really talk to it, but then you're working again, I think, on Psychonauts 2, right? You're part of that
Yeah,
production
very
again.
small part though. I mean, I was doing a lot of the character design, so I haven't
Right.
been like once that was done, I haven't been working with them as much. I'm doing some things here and there for them, like maybe some drawovers and things,
Right.
but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But then is that something that you're excited
Oh
about?
yeah.
Is even just a fan, like to see how
I
Psychonauts 2
mean,
is going to come out? And yeah, because that was like a big
mhm.
part of your life
Yeah, I mean
initially.
that was like I felt like yeah, that came out in 2005. So I feel like after that coming out with Brutal Legend, Broken Age and all these other games and other books and things like that, I feel like going back
Mhm.
after what all the things I've learned about life and drawing and painting and
Yeah.
stuff, like coming back to revisit that old world was
Yeah.
so fun. It was something we always wished we could
Yeah.
do, but like it was something that Tim and I always talked about
Mm.
doing. But like it was like fun to actually go back there
Yeah.
and revisit like those characters and think about how to further go past it and think about other characters in the world and relatives and
Yep.
family and friends that like it was very very fun to go back and show the world.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where the whole acrobatic family was like
Yeah.
a very central theme that wasn't visited too much in the first game because it
Mhm.
was more about the camp and all these kids. But then of course that's now something. Of course, there's very little detail still, but like that's something you will be
Mhm.
revisiting in the new game where you're going to be meeting those parts of his life, or they'll be more interwoven
Mhm.
within the story this time. So that's, yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting as well where this sounds like probably a really horrible thing where I actually
Oh
haven't played
yeah.
the first Psychonauts game. Yeah, I know, and it needs to be solved at one point. I have it in my Steam
Right.
library and it needs to be played. But I have watched extensive playthroughs and I have seen a lot of stuff in it. So, I know like the world is very amazing. And I love the whole premise of these secret agents that use their mind and stuff.
Yeah.
It really is
It was
super
fun to
interesting to
like.
me. But
I think one of the
yeah,
things.
I
I'm
think it's
sorry for interrupting, but like the
no, 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 no.
one of the things about Psychonauts 2, which I like a lot too, is that like the team has grown and changed as far as like people joining the company, and like there's so many talented, amazing people there, and a lot of them played Psychonauts and
Mhm.
were fans of the first game. So like they could bring they're bringing ideas of the things that they were fans of, the things that they liked, and what to expand on. So it's fun
Right.
to have people that. Uh, are bringing that to the table, and it's like it's so fun to see like you know see it develop in that way as well.
Yeah. The fresh ideas that maybe they wished were in the game originally
Yeah.
but never got a chance to. And yeah, I mean, I was watching again because I'm obsessed with Double Fine and Tim and that whole world. But I was watching one of the documentaries on the new Psychonauts where they basically done a retelling of like how the company went through that whole,
Mm.
like the game
Mhm.
was cancelled by Xbox, and Tim was like up until the 11th hour was looking for
Mhm.
someone to buy the company and help them, well, not buy the company but help fund the
Mhm.
game and get it out. And And the whole thing of like the guys retelling the story of like Tim like walking up to everybody and being like, we've run out of money, there's nothing left, you
I
guys are
always
gonna have
remember
to
that
pack up your
moment. That
stuff.
was a very emotional
Even
moment.
Yeah, even telling the story then, like a lot of the guys were getting emotional, like just talking about it, because it's probably still a very vivid memory in people's heads about like that struggle of you worked in the game for so long, and then it felt like it was never going to come out, it was never going to see the light of day, and it was like, and Lee talks about it as well, that he was cursed initially the first like 5 or 6 years of his career, like he worked on all these things that never came out, so it's a very real thing. And do you find that that's
Oh
still
yeah,
something that's quite
totally.
vivid in your memory, because
Yeah.
you were part of
Well,
that
the
team
thing
at
is,
the
like
time?
for me, like it was like my first project that I ever worked on was at Lucas Learning, was this like, it was just a year of my life, but it was like this Star Wars game that they canceled like 2 weeks before it was done, and that was my first experience with like
Oh no.
something that I was so excited about that I was working on being canceled, and it was like my first lesson in how the entertainment industry works, and so when that was happening with
Right.
Psychonauts, like I was putting incredible hours in there. Like I was arriving at like 7 in the morning and leaving at like 10 at night every day, just because like the morning and the night,
Wow.
like in the evening, were when I could get my work done. In the middle of the day, since I was art director on that one, it was like I had to like be answering questions and doing these things all day. So it was just like I was there constantly. So by the
Right.
time we were dropped and it was starting to maybe not happen, I was ready to move on. I was fully emotionally detaching myself from the game. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to move to New York and
Uh,
start fresh from what I've learned, because this is what happens. Like, and this is like something
yeah.
that happens all the time. Like there's constantly projects. I
Yeah.
mean, we just like were honestly very, very lucky that we got picked up when we did and we could actually finish it. And then I had to like, after
Yeah.
that happened, like I had already emotionally detached myself. I was like, I'm done with this. And so when that happened,
Mm,
when we were picked up again, I was like, oh fuck, I have to like get back into it. I have to like somehow find the things I was
yeah.
excited about again. So I had to like
Yeah.
ignite my excitement and passion about it again, which was, it took a little bit. And then, but then
God.
as when it finally came out, I was like very, very happy and proud of it. I'm very glad it did, but
Yeah. There was a hilarious snippet though you were talking about in the Double Fine Adventure though, when like the game came out and you were kind of so done with it because you'd spent so long in it, and I think was it either you or Tim's mom, and you were like playing the game trying to get her past the part, but you were just like so
oh man,
detached from the game at that point. You were like
it
playing it in
was
zombie mode. You were
ooh,
like
it was
just
bad. Yeah,
straight
that was like
face.
right after Psychonauts came out, and like Tim and Eric Wolpaw, who was one of the writers on it, he did the Grumpy Gamer and stuff like that.
Mhm.
He we went down to
Yeah.
some show in San Jose or something, and we stayed at my parents' house.
Mhm.
And then that night, my
Mhm.
mom was like, "Yeah, get us past this first part," and like we were playing it in silence. Like Eric and Tim and I were playing it in silence because we were seeing all these bugs. We were constantly seeing bug after bug after bug, and like
Oh,
all frustrated and sad. My mom's all happy, like, "Oh, great, thanks for getting me past that." We're like, "This is the worst." I could not play it. I definitely could
like
not
the
play that
worst
game
feeling
for
ever.
a
Yeah.
few years at least after that. I couldn't do it.
It makes sense though. I mean, because there probably is. I mean, there's many happy memories, but just
Of
as many
course.
sad memories about like thinking people that left the project that
Mhm,
you were friends with at the company, or like the whole cancellation thing. And I mean, like I watch E3 every year with a couple of
mhm,
friends. It's like a tradition now. But this year or even last year, sorry, we were really stoked that like Phil came out and talked about how Double Fine was basically
mhm,
joining the Xbox family again. Um, but it was even more hilarious how Tim done this like 30-second video on YouTube where he was like getting super emotional and it was all black and white, and he was like, "Yeah, Xbox came to us and they wanted to give us a bunch of money,
mhm.
and we said yes." So
Uh,
it was like, but it was weird because the whole past thing of that, like how Xbox have treated them in the past, and I know it's a different company, it's a different game head, it's a whole different structure and whatever, but it was interesting to see that whole dynamic of them almost
oh
going
yeah,
like full
I know.
circle back to
It is wildly
where they
ironic that
started.
that happened like
Yeah,
that.
so
I like it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it must be interesting for you as well because you were part of that original team, right? And I mean, I don't want to put you in a position where you have to talk about that, and it might, you might be saying things you don't want to say. But like, was there any initial thoughts about when you found out they were going back to Xbox? Was that something
No,
you were?
no, it's fine. I
Did you
mean,
have mixed
because we've
feelings
always
or?
had, after that, we always had, Double Fine always had a great relationship with Microsoft after that. It wasn't like that, like burned that bridge. It was just like
Right.
we were doing stuff with Xbox and Microsoft, and it was like it was fine. So, and I know
Right.
that like people come and people
Mhm.
go, and from all the different companies, and so it's a
Yeah.
um, it was never that bad. It didn't surprise me. Well, I mean, I guess it surprised me in some ways, but it was also
Yeah. I mean, I was totally like floored. I never thought that would be a thing where, and even that, I thought maybe Xbox weren't looking them in that light because they were an independent studio. They maybe wanted to keep them independent, but then bringing them back into the fold maybe probably gives them opportunities to make really super
Mhm,
unique games in the future, past Psychonauts 2 coming out, because I know that will be, that's still an independent facility
mhm,
because that was crowdfunded in part, so that will still come out in that way. But then I think they probably will look down the line 5-6 years from now that they'll be making really awesome
mhm.
games for them again. So which might be interesting because it might give them the opportunity to bring more people on
Yeah.
or look at different
Well, I
avenues
think
than they've
too,
done
like
before.
they
So
Double
um,
Fine became this advocate for independent games and like to put out in such a way that was in starting like Day of the Devs and things that was like it was so exciting to see, and it was like brought this community together. I mean, the community was already together. I mean, they're not responsible for bringing the community together, but they fostered this kind of wonderful way of like
yeah,
putting these all these games up into the limelight, so you could see all these wonderful ideas that like people had that wouldn't normally get that chance. And I think that that's one thing that I think Day of the
yeah.
Devs there is something that they're still going to do. That's that. I don't know if you know about what. Do you know what Day of the Devs is?
I've heard about, yeah, I've saw it on their YouTube channel, the whole bringing independent developers towards
Mhm.
one point and showcasing their work, and it was almost like a kind of penny arcade
Right.
expo
Right.
packs kind of thing they were trying to
It's like
run in
just a small
California.
thing.
So
It
yeah,
wasn't like a huge conference or anything, but it's just like a platform to bring a bunch of games in there and have everybody experience it together. And um, yeah, and I think that's something that
yeah.
they're still going to do. I think that's something that Microsoft, as far as I could tell, is like really excited about the independent development and stuff like that. So, which is why.
Well, that's where some of the best ideas I feel have came from in games in the
Uh-huh.
last even 10 years. Like a lot of people talk about, 2010 to 2020 was like the decade of independent studios where, AAA had its time where these huge 50, 60, $150 million projects were running, but then, the ones that Tim put together were a shite. I mean, especially when Double Fine Adventure got funded initially, that was like everywhere. I can remember like just not being able to open a tab in like IGN or any kind of game studio blog, and they were talking about this Kickstarter thing that had like blown up and was a different way now to fund games. Like he was like the poster child. Tim was the poster child for people who wanted to get games made but had never thought about crowdfunding, and now it was
Mhm.
totally possible. Right, this was this first time
Mhm.
that properly done. So immense amount of pressure, but at the same time, it was great because it almost generated a whole new burst of hope that people could get something funded if they really wanted to. Because even at the time, like he was like, "Oh, three hundred
Mhm.
thousand was an ambitious amount of money," but then
Mhm.
to end with 3 million, and then of course that whole journey was like its whole thing because yeah, like you run out of money halfway through it, you had to find more cash at the end to finish it, and it came out in two parts, but it was definitely, I think, a great way to do it, and the fact that you weren't relying on studios. Like even at the end of it, Tim said, are we going to be able to rely on studios? Not at all, and we can do our own thing. Well, at the moment, no, we still
Mhm.
need that
Mhm.
generation of income, but at least we've proved that you
Mhm.
could do it, right? It was possible. It wasn't impossible. It wasn't something that could never be
Yeah,
done. It
I think
was
it's. I
done.
mean, the
So
crowdfunding thing is it can be dangerous. Only, I mean, it's a great thing, but I think it's when people kind of expect more when you have more money to make the thing, and you feel like you need to give them more. Like, oh, we're going to add this feature, add this or whatever. When like the life of a project, there's always like it seems like there's always a moment of renegotiating with with the publisher where you like the like you're not going to make it, and you need to renegotiate to get more money in order to do it. Like
yeah,
that's a normal part of game development. Whereas like when you have it with crowdfunding, you have the amount, and that's the amount that you have to use, and there's no getting more at the end when it's like such a normal thing. And I think it sucks that is something that people are like, oh no, you got to use this, like you know, spoons.
yeah, you're kind of like at the mercy of the backers. It seems like almost a detriment because I mean I know initially when he talked about again in interviews through the Double Fine Adventure blog, the kind of documentary that was happening at the same time, he was talking about how people were like, all right, so what's your idea? And he was like, no, I didn't have an idea. I wanted to
Yeah.
document the whole thing from start to finish, and people already thought I had this amazing idea just sitting waiting. He was like, no, I'm going to start
Hmm.
writing it on the book, and you guys would follow me. But then people were like, "Oh, is there this immense pressure on you to make this game now?" And he's like, "I kind of thought what people thought I'd done the rest of the time when I didn't have money." He's like, "Oh, I'll open the bank account and look in the bank. Oh, there's no money. Maybe I'll fire everybody today." He's like, "That's pressure.
right.
That's like the
Yeah.
stuff that keeps me up at night." But sitting, writing books and like, "Oh, maybe there's a guy and a girl and he's got wings and then he's like comes into this amazing world."
Exactly, yeah.
That's the fun part, right? That's the part that is easiest
I
for him.
cannot believe
So,
how well he works under
and that,
pressure. I would not be able to run a company like that. It's crazy.
oh my God, yeah. I mean, I think even to an extent, like, I mean, I don't think he would trade it for anything now. I think he loves where he is, but at the same time, I think sometimes there's an ignorance and bliss where, you're working for a company where like somebody's scheduling your time, somebody's paying your wage, somebody's getting the work, like you're just sitting there drawing, you're just making your drawings, you're not worrying about paying a bill or business meetings or development for studios. Like that's all stuff that's done in other places. And I think that would definitely be me in the industry. Like if I ever get a job, hopefully I will soon, but when I do get a job, yeah, I think I'd more be on the back end of trying to just let other people run a company and me just contribute to it. I think that would be a more comfortable place for me. Is that something you feel
Yeah,
like
I mean, I'd always
is
love
more
to
your
be
place?
like,
Or
I mean, if I was ever to be like in some sort of like a play or like a movie or something like that, I would always love to be like a side character because you could really just go nuts and like be crazy. You don't have to like be any sort of lead thing, and you could be really super creative with that. And you can just kind of blow everybody away. It's like, oh my God, you're like that character just stole the show. Because there's no pressure on that character.
yeah, there's no small actors, only small parts, as they say. So yeah, especially because you're out in LA, that might be a thing. But yeah, no, like I think it's interesting to see how Tim has navigated the last however many years trying to, have that. I think the last couple of years have been interesting, especially because there's been a whole slew of work just based around bringing back his old IPs.
Right.
Like, there was the Grim Fandango remaster, there was the Monkey Island remaster, there was the Full Throttle remaster, there was Day of the Technicals. So they were definitely like, for me as a fan, because, when I met you, I've got the huge Guybrush
Yeah.
tattoo on my forearm, on my right arm. So like, because you were like, "Oh, Tim would love that," but like, yes, those games when I was a child, like especially growing up, were the only source of like friends I had or interaction, because I didn't have a lot of friends when I was younger. So I stayed in my bedroom and played point and click games, and one of the first ones was Monkey Island. The third one, which was the more kind of, it had the more animated feel to it. It was definitely more kind of illustrated than the first two games, which were just kind of pixel based initially when they first released. And the whole, like, because Guybrush had a voice at that point, they had the guy who voiced him, and everybody had a voice. The whole, it was like watching a cartoon you could interact with, and that whole setting was great. And then I found through that like Tim's older work, so like Grim Fandango came out at that point or was coming out, and then of course Full Throttle. So these worlds were all things that I experienced very in depth as a kid, and just I felt like there were places I would love to get lost in again. But as Double Fine has kind of proven, like those games are great for a niche market, but it's definitely still not like the norm. I think one of the companies done that really well was Telltale, when they made like the Walking Dead series and Wolf Among Us and all those kind of stories, where they essentially is a point and click game or an interactive story, but then it's told or presented in a different way with those 3D stylized graphics that makes it more like watching a TV show than a point and click game. So I mean, like, yeah, those are definitely niche worlds to get into. But I mean, did you have an affinity for those games, like when you were working with
That's
him,
the
or
thing.
before you worked with him, or
They like adventure games kind of came after my time. I remember like when I was young, I was into Atari and like text-based games and things like that. Like I think there's this game Bard's Tale that I was really excited about, but it was like very very simple games and stuff. So like the whole like picking up items and doing stuff with like, I think my mom was really excited about like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was a text game that she was really into, that I would play with her sometimes. So that was like the only kind of that type of game that I was into. But then later on, I did get into some adventure games here and there, like with my studio mates, my roommates and stuff. So, but I think someone introduced me to Full Throttle in high school, but I didn't, which looked cool, but I didn't really get fully into it. So it was like, it kind of like, I fell into games just because I didn't know what else to do after art school, and I had some other.
Yeah, well, that was interesting though, because you talked about like going for that interview for the background painter, and like you drew all these characters because you hated backgrounds, but then I think you eventually came to kind of love them in a sense,
because
didn't you?
I love telling the
Yeah.
stories you could tell with backgrounds, especially like now that you can navigate through them. Like when I first started, it was around the time of Monkey Island,
Yeah.
and so everything was like just matte painting sort of things, where you paint backgrounds and the characters would be just little animated sprites that kind of walk around on top of it, like color forms or something like that. So it wasn't until later that you could actually get into
Yeah.
cool kind of environments, and you could like leave hints of what came before when you're like walking through a scene and stuff like that in 3D, and you could like leave a campfire there, or leave some items, or something, a stain on the wall or something that's like, oh my god, why was that there? Like, what's happened before? Like, who lived here? Like,
Yeah.
what, like the background can be such a wonderful character. It's so fun. Ugh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great as well, the fact that with the tools being so readily available, and if people can relatively draw well, you could make these things in like 2 or 3 man teams. Like, I think I just watched a documentary about Supergiant, who are based out, I think, in LA, and the guys that made Bastion and Pyre and recently Hades. You know, like these games that were made in teams of like 10
Yeah.
people. Like, it's just incredible to see how far these games can be pushed with just like really super small teams. Because yeah, when you worked on like Psychonauts, the first game, I think you had like, what was it, 50, 80 people. There was like quite
Mhm.
a large team at the time. It was like a lot of people, but now, like I'm saying, you can do it with like a handful of people. You can do it with
Mhm.
5 or 6 if they're really dedicated. So if people wanted to make, like even if I wanted to make a point and click adventure game now, if I could draw relatively well and throw something in the Unreal, like
Mhm.
you can turn things around in
Exactly.
relatively short spaces of time. Is that is,
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, yeah.
is
I'm
that what
saying
you still there?
it's
Yeah. Or
exciting.
oh, cool, cool, cool.
Doing
Yes, yes, yeah, cool. Yeah. Is that something you think you would want to do in the future as well? Be part of like your process of growing as an artist? Are you want to try and make your own intellectual properties moving forward, like your own stories or your own, like rather than using somebody else's idea for a children's book, like
Mhm.
start
Oh
to
yeah,
generate your
definitely.
own worlds and
Yeah, I mean,
characters?
I've done that a couple times, and I have some projects I'm working on now. It's like that's kind of primarily what I'm very excited
Right.
about. Uh, so yeah,
Cool.
that's something.
Yeah, cool. There you go. Answer perfectly. You already had the answer pre-made because you knew you were doing it already. But is that something also you think like it's definitely going to be initially your future just now, is that the children's book stuff would be more a priority
Mhm.
than going back to doing more game stuff? Do you think? I mean, I'm not saying like never ever, but do you think that maybe like you've had your time in games and you feel like it's somewhere like you wouldn't want to go back to necessarily because you've already kind of like that's been
No,
crossed off for you? You
I'd
don't really
totally
need
be
to
into it.
revisit that,
That's
or
the thing that I mean, but I haven't even done
oh, cool,
like I've done some work in film and stuff, and a little bit of cartoons. But I would love to see like tell stories
right,
with the cartoons and stuff as well. Like I would love to like figure out how to have moving
right,
things happen where you don't the narrative isn't so much determined by the player, but it's like, I mean, you can kind of lay it out in different ways. I do love the experiences that you can have and different ways of storytelling like that. So I
mm,
don't know, I'm open to all kinds of things. Right
right,
now, it's very exciting for me too. 'Cause I work in a studio space in Los Angeles that with share the space with a number of other artists that have different disciplines that all work on really interesting things. Like
okay,
and a lot of them are like working on VR. Some of them are working on VR things and some augmented reality things, and like they're constantly putting their helmets
mm,
on, and
oh,
it's
cool,
so. And then it's this other group, like they're called Encyclopedia Pictura. Like their videos are incredible, like their music videos are incredible, and they do a lot of actual
hmm,
like built things, like do a lot of animatronic sort of things, like in
oh,
costumes
cool,
that people wear. So it's fun to
cool.
see people experience these stories in all these different ways. It's absolutely it's so fun.
Amazing. Have you tried any of
I have, yeah.
the VR painting stuff,
Yeah.
initially? Oh, cool. Have you used, I'm trying to think of what would have been the one you
Uh,
used, but Quill?
no, I
Is that the
didn't use the
one that
Oculus
uses
one. I
Oculus?
used
Or
it's the guys actually that left Double Fine and started this stuff with Google that I think, um, oh my
oh, okay.
god, now I'm forgetting it because 'cause it's been so long. I did a little residency at Google working
Yeah.
with that, with their paint program. Oh my god, it's horrible.
Was it the oh, God, Google, what would it be actually? I'm trying to think. It wouldn't
Check
be
it out.
Medium. It wouldn't be yeah, I know I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to think of
It's
there
horrible.
is a paint package that I'm drawing a blank myself. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, I think that I have a VR headset as well, and I definitely feel like, it's interesting, the VR painting stuff, because I feel like it can be more expressive than your general just painting
Mhm,
or drawing on 2D canvases. It's things can come alive now, especially with Quill, like
mhm. Oh,
Facebook's basic
Tool
Oculus's
Brush,
thing,
that's what it was.
because Quill has
Yeah.
Oh, Tilt Brush, yeah, Tilt Brush is awesome, yeah. But Quill's good because in that I think Tilt Brush also now has it, but they have animation tools in Quill. So Goro, one of the guys I met at THU, Goro Fujita, like he done a whole Beyond the Fence animation. It was all about a little robot building wings to jump over like a junkyard fence to get into the world. But he painted and built the things and animated the whole thing in one program, and it was incredible to see. And that's what I'm saying. That's great that these tools now exist where you can build these 2D animations or these animations that are pre-made and can be animated in one day. Like he does a thing now. I'll send you his Instagram at one point, but every single day, because he works specifically now at Oculus, doing work on this program. But he does every single day he does a 30-minute sketch with the Oculus, and makes these little animations, these little 3, 4, 5 second
Cool.
animations, and they're just incredible. Like even like a robot on a swing, or like a kid running down a street. Like it's simple little things, but all done within just VR. And I know he was pushing hard the Oculus Quest because that's a headset you can use without a computer. Like the whole thing's built into the headset, so you don't have to have like a fancy computer setup. You just literally put the headset on and you can use it. Like even when you're out in the street, like people were doing it, like they were painting, taking it to like artists on the street
Cool.
and making them paint with the VR. Because there's a spray paint game where you can like
Cool.
spray paint on walls. So yeah, like technology now is like ridiculous. It's so crazy to see what people are doing. But exciting stuff because then it opens up all these possibilities for, you know, future projects and even doing like, I know people are doing like art shows in VR, but like inviting people. So if they're sitting around the world, they can put their headset on, but all
I
be in the
love
same
it.
gallery looking
I
at the
love
same
it.
paintings.
There's somebody at my studio that does that too. She
Crazy.
paints VR fine art stuff and has gallery shows with that.
Oh wow. Yeah, the one thing that I've loved about VR is the fact that there's some of the galleries have put their whole like they've collected pictures and put their VR experience of the gallery, and like museums around the world, you can visit them just by putting the headset on, and it's crazy. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. So now that you've done the whole games, children's books, is there any kind of medium that you would want to tackle that you felt you haven't yet or would want to, like something that, like, you know, you've never thought of doing, like something like maybe even not art related, like music wise,
I'd
or
love to do.
stop motion, or
Mhm.
acting or stand up? Is there anything that you feel like, I mean, there probably is a laundry list of stuff you want to do, but anything that's kind
Yeah,
of burning
I mean,
in
I'd love to
desire
do
at the moment that you want to do?
cartoons and stuff. I would love to do. I love to do stop motion. Actually, yeah, that sounds great too. Or even puppets. I love to use puppets. I would love to do something live, like a live thing, some sort, like performance. But
Puppets are so cool. I always remember that that I was it Forgetting Sarah
uh,
Marshall, the film with Jason Segel years ago, and he done the whole
oh
Dracula Van
yeah,
Helsing
oh
puppet
yeah.
show at the end with the with the puppets. It
hmm
was like a musical. It was really crazy. I was stuff like that seems really interesting to do. But is that something like even
Totally.
a more theater
Yeah, I mean,
production puppet
I
thing that would
fantasize
be kind
about
of cool
doing
as
some
well for you
sort
to
of
do? Or
show to like a kids show or something. It'd be fun to like develop an environment, where like you could be hanging out with like these puppets or creatures or whatever, and you can draw with them. Like I always was very inspired by
Mhm.
Captain. Oh, God, what's the name of that guy? There's this dude that I grew up watching a show where he would like he would keep adding to this like alien. He'd add to this alien world and stuff, and he'd talk to you. Oh, Commander Mike, I think, or
All right.
something like that. Anyways, but I just
Okay.
loved like those drawing
Oh,
shows, and
interesting.
like you could hang out with them and draw with them like that. Like, ugh, I would love to do something like that,
Yeah.
or just like, yeah, come up with like there was a show when we were I was just actually in Japan for my honeymoon just recently, and we watched a lot of the Japanese
Oh, cool.
TV, and there's a show with a bunch of chairs, like a bunch of chair characters, like, and they're all just like hanging out with like different types
All
of
right.
chairs, and they have like eyes and stuff. And every once in a while, you'd see them in stop motion, you'd see it animated, you'd see all of a sudden you'd see live action, just like a kid hanging out with a talking chair, kind of like Cherry in Pee Wee's Playhouse. But just such a good
Wow.
idea. So things like that, I would be like,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, Japanese shows are, some of the stuff they across there is just like, I think it's stuff even in your wildest imagination you could never think about actually doing. And then you watch those shows and you're
hmm
like, who came up with that idea? Like, what was that person smoking when when
Yeah.
they were like putting this down on paper? Because I've definitely even watched some like Japanese animes where I've been like, you know, even the old school stuff like Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, like the thought process of like how they constructed their worlds and villains, like it seems absolutely alien to us. But then they think at a
There
different
was a
level.
wild, like I was looking at picture books and stuff, and there's like a graphic novel series that's very popular. This kid is like the butt detective or something, where he's like
Oh yeah, I've
his
heard
head
about
was
that.
an actual
Yeah,
butt. It's like a butt head, and like he's
it was
very
like a
popular.
like a book or yeah. I've definitely I'm trying to think too. It was there's a guy called his channel's called Abroad in Japan, but his name's Chris Broad. But he's an English guy that lives in Japan, and he has the book on his shelf because he was doing a recent video about
Yeah.
like his weird Japanese bookshelf, and yeah, I saw that, and yeah,
What's
but then it's stuff
yeah.
like yeah, like it's just the create. It's like there's no idea across there that isn't like too far. It's like how can we make it even more crazy? Like I think that's the thing that appeals to that market is making it just absolutely
Which is
bonkers.
so creative, which is
Um,
like what I would love to strive for. It's like because that's like a kid probably came. It seems like a kid came up with the idea. Like, yeah, this
yeah,
detective is a butt for a head, and you're like, oh my gosh, can you get away with that, dude? It's kind of so naughty, but like kids love
yeah,
it, and you're like, oh god. Or even like Captain Underpants was a very popular book here,
oh
and
yeah,
went to do
yeah.
Dogman. Like that guy's one of the funniest like comic writers ever, but he's just a guy wearing underpants.
But then that's interesting as well when you talk about like even I know I looked in for ages about working in Japan as like an animator for anime and stuff like that or manga, but those guys are like ridiculously underpaid. Remember watching or seeing an article about people who work on really popular animes like Naruto and a couple other shows across there back in the day, and they were getting something close to like $1,000 a
Mhm,
month, but they were working like 60, 70 hour weeks. So it's like it's ridiculous that that kind of wage exists for somebody so talented and so dedicated to their craft. But then
mhm.
of course, you visit LA and you learn what a lot of the guys that work in Riot Games or Blizzard are on, and it's great because they get the wage they probably deserve. But then the comparison between East and West is like ridiculous. But then obviously there's also people I've seen recently who've worked on or studios that have worked on films or animations, and they're getting paid absolute peanuts as well, and also getting laid off at the end of the project.
Yeah,
So
that's a problem.
have you found that like mental health has been something that's been at the forefront of your career since you've been kind of in games way back in the day? Is it something now more you think about when you look back on the studios you were in? Is it something that you feel is an issue or was an issue then is still an issue now? Or
Well, I think you grow a little bit. I remember in the beginning days of Psychonauts, like a lot of us we were all very young and like didn't have families and everything. So, and there were a few people that had families and like they were struggling against these crazy long hours. And like, I mean, we had a pretty notorious crunch that last year, where like after it was done, I felt like I didn't know how to like, I felt like I just got out of prison, like, or like back from a war. Like I didn't know how to talk to people and go to parties and things and interact with people. So it was
yeah,
tough, but also just like balancing life. I remember like being in San Francisco at that time, and like we started Brutal Legend, and I just didn't want to be in San Francisco, and I was just sad
mm,
all the time. So it was like wanting to. I would like be working nonstop at the studio, and then coming home and working on my comics and my paintings for art shows. Like I was really overworking
mm,
myself, And then early on, being in playing music and being in bands, it was just like wait. I don't know how I had so much time to do all those things. And
mm,
like as you grow older, I feel like there's no time to do any of that stuff. I can't
mm,
imagine doing all that stuff, like having that youthful energy. But also that wasn't a good
yeah,
life balance. I would be getting a lot of headaches, and I would be like having a lot of body problems from all that. And then when I moved to New York and got away from it, I was able to start to balance my life a little bit, like be able to like kind of hang out with people and kind of take in culture and take in things and be working. I felt like my work would get better. It got better when I started just having that balance in my life and everything. So
mm,
I mean, that's something that I'm very conscious of, and conscious of having, especially not having like an office to work in when you're freelance. You have to
mm,
kind of be disciplined. I certainly would not have been able to be freelance right out of college. I didn't have the discipline for it. So I learned how to have
mm,
that discipline, like a 9 to 5 job, to help me work and figure that
mm,
out at Lucas and Double Fine, and then doing it on my own, I was like, okay, this is necessary for me to have a work day and have my weekends off,
mm,
like for my sanity, like try to not work on weekends and kind of stop working in the like at 6 or something like that. That was important for me to
yeah,
maintain, you know? Um, so now it's like, but it's also like trying to figure out when the other thing for myself is like trying to figure out when you actually can work, like when your golden hour of creativity is, and not pushing yourself like, oh, I have so much work to do. I have to work from like morning till night nonstop. It's the only way they can come up with ideas and stuff. I've discovered that like the middle of the day, I really can't get anything done. Like I can't focus. It's not a good time for me to do anything. So I feel like from like 11 to 3 is when I do emails and more my brainless business stuff. But like from the morning, like the morning is my golden hour, and then like from like 3 or 4 to 7 is my other golden hour, where I just like can get a lot done in those little pockets of time. So like giving yourself those little bits of time that you could feel creative, and letting yourself off the hook those other times can kind of help you like feel like more relaxed, and like you can be creative and get your work done, at least for me. So those are the sorts of things that help me balance myself out.
Yeah, I definitely. Even something you've said there's really touched on something personal that's going on with me, where, I left my career as an engineer, in
Mm-hmm.
2012, and then I went back to university to requalify as an artist, and I graduated in 2018, middle of 2018, and I've been trying to fill
Yeah.
my time with freelance work and networking. But the discipline to sit and do things all day, every day, is hard for me, I think, because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, straight out of college, that would have been a struggle for you. But that's kind of what I'm facing just now. Like, between side jobs and hustles, I'm trying to find that full time gig. But
Mm-hmm.
being disciplined enough to work in your art all the time is hard for me, because I haven't had that studio experience nailed into me, where you have that schedule, like you can understand, like, now I need to work or now I don't need to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, I have almost the opposite problem, where I have so much free time,
Mm.
it's finding it hard to fill
Yeah.
that productively
Right.
with
Yeah,
work. So
totally. I mean, and I feel like I can only work with deadlines, and it's hard to give yourself those deadlines. Like I remember, like when I was in like the art collective, we were doing art shows or going or making mini comics and going to like comic book shows. Like you want to go to those shows and bring something. Like having those be deadlines where you're like, oh, I have to make a new comic, or I have to make something to bring this show, or else I don't have anything. Like those seem to be the only ways I can actually get stuff done. Because even now I struggle with like trying to get pitch books to make for picture books and stuff, because that's an open deadline. It's not something that like I work with a literary agent, and like he kind of helps me try to establish deadlines for myself. But anytime any other projects come on, like that I have to do that there is a deadline, that will take precedent when with instead of the things that I really should be focusing on, which is like pitching my own books and these other things. And it's hard when there's when there's no real reason. It's a soft deadline. So it's hard to kind of give yourself like it is hard to give yourself project deadlines and stuff like that. But sometimes that's why actually I started doing I did an online comic when we were working at on Psychonauts at Double Fine. We started this little online comic thing called Double Fine Action Comics, and that was something that like every morning I would do a little comic for an hour each morning, just so I could put it on a regular basis and start like a regular posting thing, which I know that's a lot of people do with their webcomics and with their art and with their Instagram. And it's a good way to kind of feel like I need to post something on a regular basis. So it's a good,
yeah,
it's, I guess you.
I think Instagram's been instrumental in that for a lot of people. I think a lot of people I know have built careers. One girl I went to university with, she was already set in her mind that she was going to work in comics. She didn't work in games or anything,
Mhm.
but her Instagram presence is like she's built her own foundational following online. When she posts stuff, it has thousands of likes, because she's built that whole family, or that whole community connective on Instagram.
Mhm.
And I even feel like Facebook, in an extent, used to be a place where a lot of artists would congregate and talk,
Mhm.
post their work. But now Instagram is more the thing that people are
Yeah.
doing on a daily basis. Like, it seems to be the more hub of creative,
Yeah.
posts and things that people release. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah. Are you quite active in Instagram as well?
Mhm.
Do you post regularly, or?
Yeah, I try to post fairly regularly. I mean, I try to post the showdowns twice a week. That's like my one regular thing that I do. That's kind of taking the place of the action
Right.
comics. But yeah, I mean, I try to post fairly regularly, but it's tough when I have big projects and things I'm trying to do. Like, um, and also
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing out when I'm not like checking out the stories and like things like that. Like, it's like I'm missing out on what's happening in the
I
world.
know, it's the fear of missing out. It, like, it
I
exists.
know.
It's weird, because we're like this generation to grow up with the internet, and like a lot of the problems we're finding firsthand is stuff that you can't really categorize or measure, because it's never existed
Mhm.
before. So a lot of people who are experiencing, FOMO, like fear of missing out, or they've got a lot of mental issues now with kids for body image because of social media, and it's stuff that we just never had because it never was a thing. So it's weird to see all these new, I wouldn't say diseases, but these conditions, especially mental health conditions that come out. And I think the whole comparison thing with body image is similar to comparison with art, because I mean, I love ArtStation. It is a great tool for promoting and finding artists for the industry. But when I go on ArtStation to try and get inspired, you sometimes look at someone's incredible work and be like, well, it's no my work. Fuck, I feel horrible now.
It's hard to not compare yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
yeah,
everyone does
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. And even at the top end, like I know people who work in or have worked in massive studios and huge projects, and will look at someone's work and like, oh my God, it's so good. Like I wish my work was like that. But then they have this whole catalog of work that's already incredible. And, I kind of, I don't hate it, but like I've kind of learned as I've grown into being an artist over the last couple of years that you're almost setting yourself up for a perpetual life of disappointment because you're always comparing your work to other people's. And I think it's the only way that lessens is that you try to eventually use that inspiration. Well, try to use it as inspiration. You try to look at somebody's work and be like, that's great. They've done something really awesome. How can I implement that into my
Exactly.
work and make that part of my pipeline?
Exactly. I mean, you have to be able to. You can't be just sitting. I mean, I guess you can be an artist and just like say, "Oh man, my work is great," and just sit there and just enjoy making your art all the time and not grow. Or maybe, I mean, I feel like part of it's like kind of growing and stuff. Like once you start feeling stagnant, you have to start trying to explore new things. And I mean, I've been feeling pretty stagnant with what I've been doing. So like I always want to kind of try other things like collage and other types of mediums and things. But it's hard when you have jobs and things you got to work on. Like when you try to
Deadlines,
test
yeah.
them
Because
out.
you talked about that, right? You talked about how like watercolor for you was like an epiphany moment. Like
Mhm.
using that for the first time was a whole experience in itself. Like,
Mhm.
have you had that recently with any other mediums
No,
or?
see, that's the problem. I had that so long ago, and that was an epiphany for me. And like, I just kind of I need to explore other things and get other epiphanies because I mean, anytime I tried to apply something like, oh, I'm going to try these new techniques or these new things for this next project, I'm like, yeah, I'm terrible at it. And like, it sucks when you get to a certain point in your career, or like in your age, where you're like, it's a bad feeling to just suck at something for a while. But in order to do new things, you have to suck for a while, and then you could get over it and you can take things from it and you can learn from it. So, but it's hard to find time to do it. You know, you can't when you have like an assignment and you're like, oh, isn't the right time because I can't suck on this assignment. So,
I know you feel almost like I think it's harder when I was initially getting in the industry in 2016. I started going to networking events, and you were sitting at these talks where people had done like a million projects and had 5 or 6 on the go at one time, and were also making a short movie and making their own art book, and you just like sit there like, what am I doing? Because I'm like, it must be something I'm doing wrong because like they're doing all this amazing stuff and I should be doing it too. And then that's where the comparison
yeah,
comes in because people are leading these lives where they're doing like all this work plus all this stuff on the side, that personal stuff. You feel like you're not doing enough, so you want to try and emulate that. But then of course maybe that's not for you, or you want to, because for the amount of people I've met in the industry that are like the standout guys who do these incredible things and do talks and present at these amazing things. There's like a million other people in the industry that are just the 9 to 5 guys, who make something for a game in a studio, then go home and switch off and don't really think much about the industry.
mhm,
And I think it was finding that happy medium in between, but yeah, it's definitely a thing. Because obviously, if you worked at Double Fine, at that time you were there, you would have known people that were like not only working on that stuff, but and then you said it yourself, like when you were doing, your band, and then you were doing your comics at night and stuff for galleries. Like, I don't know what that is. You're talking about capturing that youthful energy, but maybe it's when you're older you find that you maybe want to take a bit more time for yourself. I think when you're younger, you don't really care if you get burnt out or a bit tired because at least you're having
mhm,
fun.
mhm.
So yeah, maybe it's about finding the fun again in your work. I don't know if that's maybe what it is,
And the
but
thing is, like comparing other people, like the other reason why it's like just not a good idea is because you really don't know what's going on with them. You don't know what's going on with anyone. So it's like even if you see people that are going and doing these talks and they seem very successful, everything's going great, you have no idea the torment that they're going through. Like they're like, oh man, they're living the life. This is like they've got it made, but like you have no idea what's happening with them. Like they could be having an absolute horrible time. But like you put on a certain face and you put on, you see the best parts of people's lives on Instagram and stuff. Like it's not healthy to like think that. It's hard to not think that way. To not just think they're living a perfect life. But in some ways, it's comforting that to know that like they have their own struggles that are just different and not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's the same with social media, I think, with celebrities. When you look at all these guys who act in these movies and put in these personas, but then a lot of their personal accounts have these things where, like, they won't be wearing all the dressed up gear and have their hair all styled, and they'll be sitting with their family doing something really, low key. So
Mhm.
you get to see both sides of them, where they're working super hard, but they also have this life where they get to chill and go on holidays with their family. So, like, yeah, there's even some of the guys I know who are in the industry who are making like crazy amounts of work. Some of them, won't have a partner or any family, so they only really have to fill their own time. Or, some of them will have a family, but then maybe they're struggling at certain parts because, they're trying to find that work-life balance. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it exists in everything that you do. So,
Definitely.
yeah, man. So, that kind of wraps that up, because I don't want to keep you all day. You have to do other things with your life, which includes going and making these awesome paintings and artwork for everybody and anybody with all these deadlines. So I just want to say thanks for coming on, Scott, and talking to me about art in your life. It's been really great
It's
to
been
talk
my
to you.
pleasure, man. My incredible pleasure. I love talking to you. That's great.
Oh, it's awesome, man. Yeah, we'll maybe get you back on at one point, or later down the line, and we can maybe do
Sure.
some more stuff with the community. But yeah, I hope you have an awesome day, whatever you're doing.
Thank you
And
so much. You too.
yeah, awesome. Thanks everybody who's listened to the podcast. Sorry for the kind of back and forth, but yeah, speaking to people in LA is always a challenge. But yeah, we'll have more episodes coming up. So make sure you subscribe and share this where you can. And if you get any comments or anything for Scott, leave them in the comments section, and he'll get back to you at one point. And yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. See you guys.